Well, hello everybody, and thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Cat and Sam show. And how are you today, Cat? We've mixed
great.
it up.
We have mixed it up. I don't know if anybody will even notice.
No.
We'll see.
It's lovely to see you, my darling.
It is always lovely to see you. Lovely to see you.
Lovely.
Anyway, loverly. It's a new word.
It is.
I just coined it. I don't even know what it means.
I think that's in not Mary Poppins. Is it Mary Poppins? One of those musicals, or yeah, it might be Mary Poppins actually. But yeah, sorry, I'm in that kind of in that frame of mind. We've just had Mother's Day in the UK here, which is, it's, you know, as with most things when you're sort of post experience, has sort of different connotations, a different feel sometimes. You know, for a lot of victims, survivors and their children. But of course, everybody was out, you know, and everybody was sort of out or having meals and having Mother's Day dinners, you know, like a big Sunday lunch or whatever. And it just got me thinking again about the control over food and events like that, and even down to I mean, I don't know if you experienced this, but so food is a big part of our family, and you know, like say we're Irish by blood and by nature, so you know, food plays a big part, but it's not necessarily posh food or, you know, sort of cordon bleu. It's, you know, I am a one pot wonder, you know. There's not and it's all about that sort of big sharing thing. And he was the complete opposite, in that everything like was cut sort of mini batons, and there was I'm sure you have them over there, but you know, the really tiny tomatoes, and they're tiny, right?
The cherry ones.
Yeah. But he would be able to cut those. I mean, I was fascinated by it. He would cut those into quarters, which is almost impossible to do, and put them back in the box in their quarters. It was like a work of art. And I'd sort of put that down to, you know, he's a bit OCD, fair enough. So what was initially kind of like a quirk, but then that became about that he did, you know, and I was the complete opposite. I'm literally kind of, you know, hack away at it, shove it all in a pot, and let it do it. It's magic, you know. So that was a difference between us, which I didn't see as an issue, you know, at all. And you know, one of the many differences, but you put them together and they're quite complementary in their way. But then it morphed and became into how I was cutting things, how he didn't like my cooking, how I cut the loaf of bread, how you know, and what you served, what, you know, and of course, if then it became, you know, he would do the cooking on certain days when he was, you know, he was around, but then it became, he would decide what we would eat, and then he would decide who we could have round for, say, Mother's Day, you know, or if it was even going to be that celebrated. But even things like taking, you know, say flowers for Mother's Day. So weaponizing those days, you know, as well. So flowers for Mother's Day. And see, I absolutely love, you know, wild for somebody picking up flowers for, we talked about this with the flowers thing. You know, somebody thinking about you and they pick a flower or whatever. But he chose to pick some daffodils from a display in the town where he got chased off. So there was like this kind of illegal aspect to these flowers, and that was like, what are you doing? Why are you desecrating a display in the town? And you know, and he was chased off by this old man. So I said, "What do you think you're doing?" You know, and it's like, what? Why would you do something like that? You know, it's really odd behaviour that kind of makes it, and then tell you about it. It's not like he just sort of nicks them and then goes, "Oh, I got away with that." There was this real sort of joy in telling me about the like, and it's, you know, and what are you teaching children when you thieve flowers for somebody's mother, for their mother? You know, it's got a double-edged. It was quite interesting because it made me feel, on the one hand, it was just, I don't know, it just, something so simple as giving a couple of daffodils became loaded with all of this other stuff. The same as like just cutting a vegetable becomes loaded with all of this other stuff. You're just chopping a carrot, for God's sake. You know, that's all it is. We're just chopping vegetables. We're going to eat them, and then they are actually going to end up in the loo. You know, so it's like, it really is not a big deal, you know, in that sense, unless you've got something that, you know, causes you distress, like OCD, which I completely understand. That I completely get. But it's because
or you're a culinary chef and you enjoy making a flamingo out of cut cherries, tomatoes.
Yeah. No, this was
and everybody's
pasta.
Fascinated by that look.
Yeah, this was pasta
Like,
and courgettes, and you know, it was never anything different. There was always pasta and courgettes involved, you know, and that was it. So, you know, and it's therapeutic. It is therapeutic, like it's therapeutic doing the dishes, or it's therapeutic, you know, hanging out washing or whatever.
You know, the first thing that comes to mind when you were talking, or not the first, well, whatever, that came to mind is like somebody's going to go, that wasn't her first thing that came to mind.
I know what it was, Kat. I know, yes.
Right, because the first thing that came to mind was blah. So anyway, but now I forgot my thought.
The first thing that came to mind.
Is this tied into the way that we look? Like, are we eating too much food? Like, we're really going to control the food? Or is it tied into finances? Like, we're spending too much money on food, so we can't necessarily have everybody? Is it, you know, into that, you know, I'm getting away with something kind of thing? So instead of going and buying, I'm going to go thieve some daffodils.
I mean, it's not, you know, it's not like you couldn't afford it.
Right,
it was a choice.
Right.
It's a choice to thieve, you know. I mean, I know thieving's a choice, but do you know what I mean? It's like, and I think it feeds into all of those. I think it's about all of those things. It's about controlling what you eat. It's about taking something that is supposed to be special for you and turning it into something unpleasant. It's about just that. I would love a perpetrator to come on here and explain this, because the only thing that I can come down to is it is actually about enjoying chaos and drama rather than just having a nice time. It's about chaos and drama. But I don't know that it's, you see, because I've always struggled with chaos and drama and then being dramatic and this, that, and the other. And sort of like thought, well, you know, maybe I'm probably the more dramatic and chaotic of the two. But well, in the sense that I understand chaos and drama, right? But I'm starting to understand, I think, that creating chaos and drama is actually about disruption. It's about disruption. It's about creating more difficulty than there needs to be, as opposed to being tra-la dramatic. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and some of it is about their boredom.
I suppose, yeah. Yeah.
They're bored. They're bored. And so their entertainment is to try to move people in directions that they want to move. I've experienced that. I can tell you that, I can remember going for a walk. We were walking somewhere as a family, and I went to go get a Coke out of a Coke machine, and anyway, I was getting a Coke out of a Coke machine, and I hear this behind me. And I turn around to a shaking head. That's really bad for you. And I continued to put the money in and got what I wanted. At the same time, it's that little just chipping away at who you are. We talked about clothes and how, we have that expression and it's just really, it's interesting to me how it's all tied in together, and people think, it's just like so easy. You could just walk out the door. It's not so easy because there's so many things tied into that whole system.
It's really enmeshed. Really enmeshed. It all bleeds into each other. But the boredom thing I think is really interesting, because thinking about it, boredom's probably really quite a big part of it, isn't it? It's like sort of doing anything that's not their idea, not what they want to do, but even when they do that, but even when it is things, even that's boring in a way, because somebody's caved, so they're getting what they want, and that's still not enough. It's like an itch they can't scratch, I suppose. But the boredom, I'm trying to think every time, and actually everything was boring. People were boring.
Right. Well, they want the attention on them, and so if it's not on them, then they're going to turn to do things in order to get that on them.
So I think the thing about, but I think I'm getting really fascinated now thinking about it, really fascinated about this idea and it relating to boredom. I mean, I did hear somebody say, a perpetrator say that women bored him. And he meant it, and I don't know if that might be something for us to chat to Dr. Dan, who came on before, because I'm finding that concept quite.
Yeah, that'll come on next week, I think.
Dr. Dan.
Yay! Yes, our he won't come on next week, but our video with him should be up next week. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was fun. It was fabulous. So yes, Dr. Dan, I have a question for you about boredom. Be warned. It does fit, actually, doesn't it, with that whole sort of cat and mouse. When you see a cat and they're playing with a mouse and they're literally, they've sort of half killed the mouse, and they just sort of play. They're known for it, aren't they, cats, for sort of playing with half dead animals and teasing them and stuff in a quite bored way, in like, well, I can and I can't. I could kill you now, but I might not bother, and I'm just a bit bored with it all.
I have to do a little research on that boredom thing, and it's linked to domestic violence and aggression, apparently. When you think about it, bullies at school and out in the world are bored. They want to go pick on somebody. That's how it was when I was growing up. The bullies were bored. They wanted to physically do something to cause an issue, which
for
also
their
goes into that.
entertainment.
Right.
So it's a mixture. It's not just boredom. It's like it's a mixture of boredom, entitlement, like the cat and mouse. I'm bored, so I'm going to do something that makes somebody else suffer for my entertainment. Wow.
Well, this conversation was not boring.
No.
And it seemed to go a lot of ways. We talked about boredom, and we talked about food, and we talked about clothes and aggression, and it's always fascinating to talk with you and to think about, wow, that makes sense, and just to have another perspective in looking at this, and because it really is complex. It really isn't easy just to go, okay, I'll just go today and go amongst my merry life, and everything will be fine after that. When it's the worst time is when people leave. So we're going to leave you now. And we'll see you again another day. You got to comment if you want. Please subscribe. We'd love to have you on watching, and hit that bell. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.